Shopify shares under some pressure this morning. The e-commerce company reporting a wider quarterly loss, operating income below estimates. Revenue did exceed consensus, though. Shopify's president, Harley Finkelstein, joins us here first on CNBC. Harley, good to talk to you again. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, Carl. Thanks for having me, as always.
Some are pointing to the current quarter guide, although I imagine you're going to argue you're hanging in there fairly well, given some of the tensions that have been introduced.
Well, certainly. I mean, I think the results show that we are further establishing ourselves as a leader in commerce. If you look at the quarterly results, even in an uncertain market, revenue was up 27% to $2.4 billion. Free cash flow margin hit 15%, and it was our seventh consecutive quarter of GMV growth above 20%, which I think speaks to how well merchants are doing. So my hope is that it should be pretty obvious to everyone that Shopify can balance both growth and profitability. But as you're sort of alluding to, Carl, in a very unpredictable market, this is sort of where Shopify's superpower of agility really comes into play. We built this business model that allows us to really adapt very quickly and pull the right levers. And for the millions of retailers on Shopify that have built their entire businesses on us, I don't think we're just a tool for them. I think we're a huge advantage. In fact, I first came on this show like 10 years ago at the IPO. So it's been about 40 quarters now. And actually, if you look since that time, since the IPO, since 2015, the growth rates of 38 out of 39 quarterly cohorts of merchants on Shopify have actually outperformed the overall e-commerce market. So I think especially in tough times, businesses are just better on Shopify.
Can you talk, you mentioned this on the call, these tools you have that allow merchants to achieve compliance with even new tariff announcements as they're announced?
Yeah. Look, as I said, Shopify was built for times like this. We've been at this for 20 years now, for 2 decades. So whether it was 2008 or during the pandemic or right now, our objective, our mission is to shoulder complexity so our merchants don't have to. And I think our velocity and pace of innovation is unmatched. So for our merchants right now, that means giving them all the tools they need to adapt to tariff changes or macro changes. And so whether it's building tools like duties calculation to help with cross-border payments, we built a buy local filter over a weekend when the tariffs were first announced to allow consumers to buy directly from merchants in their countries, manage markets, or even things like, duty collection, how to display and collect duties during checkout. Our job is to give merchants every tool they need to give them all this optionality and let them choose the ones they need to best address these macro changes and this tariff environment.
Harley, in terms of, you did have some comments about the consumer and how the merchants you serve seem to be perhaps better positioned. But what can you say about overall trends, whether that means pull forward of demand in some areas or just the run rate right now of spending interest?
Yeah, Mike, look, we're not seeing any changes as of now in our merchants. Our data shows that we're actually gaining market share in both the U.S. and Europe. And if you look at our data through April, it does not suggest a slowdown. However, I think it is still early to assess the entirety of the potential impacts. But again, as in times of disruption, this is where we do well. One of the other things to keep in mind about the benefit of the Shopify business model is that we have merchants everywhere, all sizes, across every geography and every vertical. So our merchant base is not concentrated in any one particular geography or any one type of industry, including even B2B. We have a huge B2B business now that focuses on automotive and industrial. So I think generally merchants on Shopify are doing quite well still.
You've made the case that you're equipping your merchants to kind of handle whatever comes, although there is this sort of thinking on Wall Street that it is the entrenched large players that have a real advantage here in this environment when it comes to figuring out where they can get their vendors, negotiate price, and handle whatever pressures come from these trade measures. So is that something that you feel as if the playing field has become less balanced?
Well, I mean, for the larger merchants, the larger retailers, which we're acquiring a lot of right now. I mentioned on the call companies like VF Corp and LVMH, JW Anderson, and even Kering Beauty are coming to Shopify. So they kind of join our roster of very large brands like Dior and Mattel and Alo and Supreme. But the smaller merchants also have a huge opportunity because they're able to be a lot more agile, to be a lot more flexible. So across the board, our job is to arm them with every tool they need and then let them decide. But again, across the board and throughout April, we had not seen any slowdown whatsoever.
Harley, I hate to ask you about another corporate, but the conference call from UPS keeps coming up in conversation because Carol Tomei, the CFO, talked about how many of their clients are small businesses single-sourced to China, and that she thought that was infusing a lot of risk, at least in our own economy. Is that a view that's held by you or those among your peers in Canada?
Well, in terms of China, I mean, exposure does vary by merchant. Some are going to be more impacted by others, but net, we're not seeing meaningful impact on GMV. Obviously, Carol and UPS is one of our shipping partners as well, so we see what they see. But generally, I do think that small businesses tend to be a little bit more nimble. They tend to be a little more agile, that they can make changes a lot faster. And so as of now, we have seen no changes. Obviously, we'll keep monitoring that as well. But our job, if we want to qualify, I mean, right now, about 12% of all U.S. e-commerce flows through Shopify. We're the second largest online checkout in America. In order for us to qualify to have this leadership position, to be the trusted platform for millions of brands, big and small, our job is to give them every tool they need. And if you look at our velocity of product shipping right now, it's unequivocal. It's unlike anybody else, and we'll continue doing that in the future.
Can't believe it's been 10 years of good conversations with you, Harley.
I've really enjoyed
always
it.
Good to see you, as always. Harley
Thank you,
Finkelstein
Carl.
joining us.